All right, we're going to talk about Heat 6 and 7 together because it's the same track. It's the same apartment building. It's non-linear. They just need to get from floor 7 all the way down to the first floor for Heat 6, and then Heat 7 is them going all the way back up to the top again. Side note that I love that it's called the Langle Building. I really liked A Wrinkle in Time when I was younger, and honestly, I need to reread. But that's beside the point. So for these races, we start to see that the AI feels like it's losing control. It starts talking to Carl in notifications, talking about how it cannot see what's going on in Shield, in the cabaret, can't see into the minds of gods, and he has no idea what's going on with the whole Scavenger's daughter, like side quest storyline. But it does mention that it learned one lesson recently to beware of exits that seem too good to be true. And I'm wondering if that has to do with what Chachi, angel goddess, was saying, or what Lucia was saying about how they're coming to take the kids' bodies. Did the AI try to create an exit for itself? And now are people using it to enter? Once Carl was rewarded his 2 choices to go into the arena, he tells his friends what his plan is, and most people are really angry. Elle and Pony seem to be completely on board, but Donut is super mad because it requires Carl to leave the party, which sounds like he's going to use that patch that he was never going to sew on, where it deflects a fatal blow onto a team member. And that makes me think, is he going to use Rend? And what will that mean for like Mordecai's prophecy that happened earlier? And a little twist is that the 11th floor is only going to be 3 hours long. The AI is apparently following the game rules, but not the syndicate guidelines. So instead of having an even longer floor next floor, they get 3 hours, which I was wondering why, like looking at the way the book is divided, like the next floor doesn't start until all the way down here. I was really wondering how that was going to happen. Rosetta also tells us more about the Scavenger myth storyline thing. That Nekabit, the goddess that Odette is driving, and we haven't heard from that side in a while, except for little snide remarks from the AI. It was the mother of Apito, a son, mysterious son, and Scolopendra. And Apito was the one who really helped get rid of all of the old gods. They said that one god was banished to Sheol, a couple of the gods were banished to nothing, or they were killed, or they faded when their worshippers were all destroyed or taken by the other gods. And the Scavenger's daughter is so important because she apparently has the power to do what Apito did. And more than that, she has the power to use other gods' powers for herself, which I guess we see through the patches and Donut's knee pads. So then if the War Mages are right, then that makes Samantha either Apito, like actually Scolopendra, or the unwitting mother that Nekabit's son impregnated. And I do feel like that last one makes sense for what we've got, because if I remember correctly, when she heard that Carl had Kamaris's stuffed little figure in his inventory, she got a foggy memory back about Kamaris giving her a potion because she couldn't get pregnant. Something like that. But there's a possibility that the War Mages got this completely wrong. And I don't know, I'm really looking forward to finding this out in the next book. I hope it's the next book. I am so ready for the Ascendancy games and all of that stuff. And I really hope that we get down to Shield. I just think all of that's going to be so much fun. Another really great scene that I love that happened in Heat 6 is we find out that Minus, who was Linus's big brother, was outed as a spy, like immediately from the snow cones from Elle's fan club. And it's just so great. I just love how all the little mentions of tea leading up to that, like I as a reader was like, oh, he's gonna try to poison them with the tea. Like he's always around the tea, like what's gonna happen? Yeah, I didn't even think about the fact that the dungeon would definitely warn them that poison was in the tea. But that didn't even matter because he was outed before then. And it was just a beautiful moment where Carl and Elle were able to really point out to everybody watching that they had already lost. It doesn't matter if the crawlers die at this point. Everybody who put them in the dungeon has lost. And it's true. The world is no longer going to function how it used to function. Like, it's broken. And the crawlers were a huge, huge part of that. Plus the AI. So pretty much Carl setting free the AI. But the crawlers are even changing some of these viewers' minds. We learned that Linus, before he died, wrote a post about how before he didn't even think of crawlers as people. And then he saw how much they loved each other and tried to sacrifice to save each other. And that it just made him miss his brother, which sets his brother off. And I'm a little upset that we don't get to see him reading what his brother said to him in an apparent letter that either he did send or he never sent. Maybe the syndicate withheld that letter so that way they could convince Minus to take his place and try to infiltrate everything. Which he tried to do that so he could kill Amani and Louie. Not Carl, because Carl is pretty much guaranteed to kill all of the crawlers and is their best case for survival. But that also makes the AI go a little bit cuckoo in this race and set up a ton of what-if scenarios, because the AI can't comprehend why Louie and Amani were the ones that were targeted. Louie is like the heart of the group, and Amani, along with Katya, who's now gone, really helped organize everything and keep people together and kind of kept a level head. And we see a bit of that in her what-if scenario, that her family really relied on her. And in these what-if scenarios, we get to see Louie and how he would have been if that cop's husband wasn't an asshole to him. And apparently he would not be so stuck in his head. He would have gone to college. He would have been, happy and in good shape, he says. And if we jump ahead to in the Heat 7 section, he said that he was afraid all his life to take on a job that had a lot of responsibility, where if he made a mistake, it would hurt somebody. And so this one event in his life really did change the course of his entire life. But now looking at Amani's what-if scenario, her uncle still dies, whether she was home or not. But she looked a lot worse. She looked really skinny and just really tired and really over everything. So leaving was really good for Amani, and she made the right choice. And then we get to Carl and Donut's scenario, which doesn't even have to do with them. It has to do with Marjorie, Gravy Boat's owner. And we find out that Bill, who Ferdinand had previously kind of complained about, he was abusive to Marjorie and he was abusive to Ferdinand. And Marjorie had called the cops, and Beatrice didn't like that the cops were blocking part of the apartment. So she complained to her lawyer father, and something happened. And also Carl saw a bag of Donut's food in Marjorie's place. So I wonder if this what-if scenario is if instead of Beatrice getting her father to stop the cops from being there, if it was more, what if Beatrice used her father to help her, maybe help her get a restraining order? But we all know Beatrice would never do that. Anyway. And then two very, very, very emotional things happen pretty much at the same time, one because of the other. Jurgen lets Carl know that he needs help with Pony. That Pony is stuck in his what-if scenario, that he won't leave. And so Carl and Donut, first of all, Carl and Donut ask Osvaldo where he is in the race. He has Joshua and Radislav in his chat, so he didn't even ask them. And I understand why. They've been trying this whole time to minimize crawler-on-crawler races. And it would probably be a lot worse for Carl if he had talked to them before making this decision. But I'm just so mad. I'm just so mad of how that all played out. I really wanted them to either win with Carl, but we find out that only one team can survive, or get sent to the Pineapple Cabaret. They could have been sent to the Pineapple Cabaret, but nope, crawlers only. Even though, we know that Hera would have obviously loved to have them there. But instead, Carl blows them up with a trap that he set before all this. And again, Pony versus Joshua and Radislav. 100% Pony. Please save Pony. Pony is precious. Keep Pony. But Joshua and Radislav versus Osvaldo. Anyway. So that was awful. And Carl is even forgive me, friends, right before he blows them up. I don't know. I have so many feelings with that. I don't. And I know that this is just the beginning of all of these feelings and these choices and these events. They've been happening up to this point, but this felt so, again, how I said in the beginning, we just worked with the NPCs and tried to get them to survive. We are currently trying to get people into the Pineapple Cabaret, which was invented for NPCs. And now these are the choices that are being made. It just, I don't know. Angry. But then getting to the next part. Let's just leave that away and go to the next part. Pony is stuck in his what if scenario. He is in a room with Miriam Dom, and she is in New York City playing the piano, and he's just so upset. He's so upset. He's just like, this is what would have happened with my mother if she never stayed with her parents. If she never met me, she would have everything she ever wanted. He says that he doesn't fit in anywhere. He points out that Amani doesn't want him in the guild, that nobody said that they were sorry that they couldn't hear him sing after he had practiced so hard for it. He wishes that he had never taken that pet biscuit. My poor little boy. But then Carl talks to him and points out that she's obviously lonely and sad here too. You know, she's got a broken wine glass. She's got a bunch of prescription bottles, like doesn't know what's going on there with her. But he points out that if the AI is going through all of these what if scenarios, then no wonder why it's driving itself crazy. That you can't keep thinking of, well, if I made this decision, this would have happened. I mean, of course things would be different if you were making different decisions, but you made that one, and now this is what life looks like, and you have to move forward from that. And Carl is so sweet here. He looks for the right words to say to Pony because he uses herd. We are a herd. And he also says that he's sorry that he didn't get to hear him sing. And Pony hugs him and is just and finally gives Carl the permission to call him Pony. Just love it, love it, love it. And then it ends with them driving past Joshua and Radoslav's blown up van. They were so close to the finish line. For me reading that, I just pictured them getting so close. Maybe they were even first. Maybe they were beating Dwight. Who knows? But they were getting up there. They were right about to cross the finish line. And then they got blown up and then they died. Like, how heartbreaking, especially in the beginning when they lost their friend and they had no hope and they thought they were going to die there. And very literally this entire time, they've been keeping the NPCs alive so that way they could get more crawlers to survive. I needed a break after that. I needed a break after that. That was too much for me. And speaking about minimizing crawler-on-crawler races and maximizing crawler survival rate, Damien comes in, that guy from the first book that those Kakaran fairy things were shouting for, is now the announcement guy, and he's trying to convince these crawlers to take a deal. And, you know, everybody is told not to take a deal on the 10th floor, that it's the worst choice, that it's better off to be dead. We did have a bunch of people going to the Pineapple Cabaret via the cleaner bots, and Zhang, Batista, and Tran were part of it, which Tran wearing that red shirt, perfect. Love it. So good. Such a good callback. But at this point, they don't know whether the Pineapple Cabaret is safer, taking a deal is safer, or just continuing on. And I feel like safe and survival and all of that stuff is all relative. I don't think I would take a deal. I think I would opt to die, just from what we've heard. Not only what we've heard about if the dungeon were going on normally, but so many NPCs like talk about the cold. Those children that are stuck in Lucia's head talk about the cold. Like, it sounds like you are aware that you are trapped in the stasis, but Mordecai and Rosetta say you're not. But I don't know. And the fact that they might be put into stasis for forever. There might not be another crawl. The whole world might like blow up. And then what happens? Like, are they dead? Are their physical bodies? Can they die wherever they are in stasis if everything blows up? Or are they going to just be stuck in stasis forever? And then what if they can feel the cold? What if they are aware of it? Then forever, for eternity, they're just stuck there. Ooh. That is a fate worse than death for me. No. No. So a couple things happen here too before the race even starts. Brittany touches Carl and does some like weird mind meld thing telling him that he has to survive. I don't know, her eyes are red, so maybe it's some kind of drug that she took that lets her do that, or there's something more to it. Like, at this point, we're pretty sure Yasalt is stuck inside her. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but I hope that we figure it out. And with all of that work trying to like not get crawler on crawler races, the AI switches things up and we've got full NPC teams, which means that we have teams of crawler versus crawler everywhere. And that means that we have Louie and Brittany versus Lucia and Florin. And remember that we're trying to get Lucia to survive. And we have Mani and Elle versus Chris. Because of course they'd do that. Of course the AI would do that. And the AI is just screaming, like, you think you control me? You think that you can control your situation? He, like, yells at Victory and Carl and the General and Odette, like, calling them out here. So they're all, like, the big players, too. The AI says that they're just trying to show them who I am, who we are, who we were. Which I think goes back to some of my original theories when all of that conflicting information was coming out in the 8th book. So I'm excited about that. But also a little confused at why the AI can't sympathize with Carl and his crew, because they're trapped. They were put there. They had no choice. So I'm a little confused at that, besides the fact that Carl is, trying to be in control of the narrative and trying to save people, and the AI is fighting for control, and they're kind of losing it while doing it. And on top of all that, the AI gets Scavenger to start doing the 9-tier attack. So the first attack comes out. And also the AI makes a note that the in-game version of Scavenger, their attacks will stay inside the dungeon. Which means that there is an out-of-dungeon, out-of-game version of Scavenger. So that'll be fun. That'll be fun. Excited for that. But the first one is transformation, and Carl gets transformed into a dog. Totally random, and not at all because the AI mentioned that it had a soft spot for dogs, like literally just last race. But with the attack, we do find out that a Pedos crystal protects Pony. It's getting charged, but that Yassault's crystal does not get charged and does not protect from attacks. So while all this is going on, Pontiff was in the Desperado Club in the casino trying to see if that nothing spot, since the nothing is broken, if it goes somewhere that the crawlers can use. And Carl gets the notification saying that he's left the game, which means that it should work. So Carl tries to get all of the people who are on crawler versus crawler teams just to stop once all the NPCs are dead, but some of them don't, including Osvaldo, and unfortunately, or I don't know, he dies, Brittany kills him, and taking the Assault crystal, which is a whole thing. Samantha says that she needs to go to Shield or the Ascendancy floor and do something with the crystal in order to get Yassault out of her, and then Yassault will be back. So that's the whole thing. And also it sounds like it was just a big NPC slaughter, which, again, if the goal was to get them down into the nothing slot, into the Pineapple Cabaret, they could have put the NPCs in there with them. Anyway, but Dwight is gone. Donut killed him epically and took the horn. Really excited to see what they use that horn for in the future. Yeah, I don't know. It was just a big cluster. A big, huge cluster. And I'm actually a little bit happy that Jasha and Radoslav weren't there for it. That would probably be worse for Carl and Donut if, again, they didn't... I'm going to stop mentioning taking NPCs to the Pineapple Cabaret. I'm going to stop mentioning it. But so if they really did have to kill Jasha and Radoslav in that manner, I think that probably would have been worse for them versus just hitting a bomb button. I don't know. But yeah, that's how that all ended. So then the survivors are all getting together and going to the Desperado Club and trying to get that nothing square. And turns out this is where all the shadow mimics were hiding. And one of the shadow mimics, which was the strongest, the highest level, said, "In this room right now." So wondering where the other ones are. They're not all in that room. There are stronger ones outside of that room. But we get a bunch of information in this little section too. That there are 6 big groups fighting for control of the dungeon. And one of them we're going to meet on the next floor, the 11th floor. So the end of this book. The AI mentions Forkith, one of the cookbook authors. So they're still alive and in there functioning and doing something behind the scenes that we haven't heard of yet. We also hear that Juicebox ended up in Shield. She is not with everybody on the 12th floor. And that they can apparently contact her and talk to her with Reaper spider minions. And that, right, since the AI can't see Shield, they have no idea what's going on with Juicebox. We also hear that Hamid, Astrid's husband, and Damascus and Anaconda's father, has created a revolution for the early indentured. But I wonder why Astrid had to die then for him to have this revolution. Also, this entire fight, this entire time, Carl is a dog. But apparently the dog does have the eye of the Bedlam Bride. Mitch, again, screams about the cold. A lot of cold going on in this book. I don't know if it's the same thing as the mimic just remembering all the times in storage. And then because of this fight with the shadow mimics, Mordecai suggests that they all start to quiz themselves and to have safe words from now on in case they get taken over. Which also reminds me of how the changelings apparently had agents in each of those main faction areas. And was it also with Carl and Donut? Are they still there? And if so, it would have to be one of the main ones because everybody is leaving. But besides that, it'd be interesting if anybody from this fight got taken over and is now going back, whether it's in the Pineapple Cabaret or back with Carl. I think that would be really, really heartbreaking if we ever find that out. So if it does happen, I hope it happens, I guess, in the future and with someone that we don't care about as much. I don't know. I don't know. I hope it doesn't happen, but it was like something to look out for in the future. And so finally Louis does go down, which Brittany jumped in after Chris, which was not the plan. And Elle's pissed that they don't get to confront her and figure out what is happening with her and Ysault. Which, fair. But now Louis is finally going down, and Carl makes a promise to him and everybody else that as long as he's still breathing, he will do everything he can to get him and the others free. I hope he could do that. Because again, being stuck in stasis yet aware for forever. No. Though maybe being stuck in this Pineapple Cabaret pocket dimension would maybe allow him to live a little bit more of a normal life. So it might not be as bad, as long as that's where he's actually going and he's not in a temporary stasis. But it sounds like they're currently going to a temporary stasis versus going directly to the cabaret. And this chapter pretty much just ends with Elle being pissed at Carl about Brittany and Ysault and about the eye and Carl keeping secrets. And Carl promises that if they survive the next floor, they'll talk about it after Elle gets her next upgrade, her last upgrade, the 4-season upgrade. I'm just really excited about that, especially 4 seasons and there's an all tree. I mean, that just, I hope that's a connection. It sounds like there should be a connection there. And the fact that the Unwashed, the beautiful place, kind of looks like a dark upside down version of the all tree. And so I wonder if it has to do something with, the all seasons, those two pieces maybe coming together and kind of bringing balance back. It doesn't sound like we're going to figure that out this next floor, but I'm very interested to see what this arena is about, what all these stand-ins have to do, not just Carl's 2 choices, but like all the other stand-ins that are coming here, like that banker guy from the very beginning. And the AI sounds like it wants to start telling us more about itself and figuring things out. And it's only giving them 3 hours for the next floor and they have to build floats or something. I don't know. I am looking forward to that. I'm going to get to that. That is exciting. And I'm very glad that we're done with the races. I'm very glad that we're done with the races. I'm glad that right now that those moral battles with the NPCs and keeping them alive versus killing them off, I'm glad it's all over. I'm very happy that that is done. I loved all the little reveals along the way, but I did not enjoy this floor at all. All right, I'll be back in a bit.